So my topic today is looking at artificial intelligence and particularly looking at its impact on media production. So I teach digital media here at Birkbeck, and we have a range of areas to that. We study digital media. We also produce digital media. So we have digital designers and so on studying. And so the way that AI is completely kind of transforming our media landscape is an important topic for us to think about how we engage with this. My name is Joel McKim. I'm a reader in digital media and culture. I'm also the director of the Vasari Research Center for Art and Technology, and I'm the director of MA programs in digital media at Birkbeck. To kick us off with what we're kind of responding to here is the this proliferation of AI images in the world online, but everywhere from kind of deep fake images. So this was an image of the of Pope Francis in his Balenciaga puffer coat, which of course was AI generated, but circulated widely in 2023. We have AI animations, deep fakes, facial filters, just an incredible kind of deluge of AI images. And so what I want us to consider in, briefly here is, first of all, just looking at how we got here. So what led us to this moment where AI images seem to be all around us. Then I want to think about the challenges of this moment. So some of the kind of difficulties or dilemmas of the AI moment for media producers, but also opportunities. So what ways can we make use of this technology as media creators? And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about how to move forward. So how should we be teaching these topics? What tools should we be making use of? What kind of ethical and legal and political dilemmas should we contend with? So how did we get here? So, I mean, really briefly, and I won't go into this in great depth here, obviously, but, we're really kind of experiencing, in some ways, a kind of second wave of the neural network or deep learning moment within AI. So this is a particular machine learning approach to AI, in which involves statistical analysis of data through a number of layers of neural networks. But that requires a few things to work properly. So this is a technique that was thought of in the 1960s, but has only really kind of caught on in more recent decades. And there's a couple of things that were required for that to happen. One was computational power, so increasingly sophisticated and powerful computers, including GPUs, graphics processing units produced by companies like NVIDIA, that have really powerful parallel processing ability. So you have to be able to process a lot of data very quickly in order to train one of these AI models. We also needed lots of data. And so on the media front, data training sets like ImageNet, which was images scraped from the web, mostly from sites like Flickr, created massive repositories of digital images that were then tagged and were able to train computer vision systems and AI models. And so in terms of image generation, I mean, obviously we're very used now to generating images and now even films through text prompts. And so the beginning of this particular moment, so this I think I would call a kind of second generation of neural networks. Um, Arguably, oh, sorry, could people mute their mics? There's a lot of background noise coming in. If you could mute your mics, that would be great. So in 2015, one of the first propositions for creating images from prompts was developed, and it was obviously pretty rudimentary at this stage. So this was obviously images of a stop sign flying in blue skies. But then by 2021, OpenAI's DALL-E was announced, which was a really kind of big step forward within text to image generation. And we have these kind of classic images now of things like the avocado chair. So systems that were able to produce, beginning to be relatively successful interpretations of text prompts in image form. Um, Along with this kind of development, I mean, some of the changes to this kind of current moment, we had more sophisticated data scraping tools. So systems like Common Crawl, which could effectively um, collect all of the image and text information from basically the entire internet. All of this became available for training data for AI systems. And so we had these increasingly large multimodal data sets. So that means, multiple different kinds of media forms, so images and text, and then later video. So Leon 5B, so 5B means 5 billion. So there's just a huge data sets which were processed for the creation of these large foundation models like DALL-E. And then we had a kind of proliferation of these, different models or different tools for image generation from DALL-E to Midjourney to Stable Diffusion. So this all kind of occurred primarily in 2022 and into 2023, where we had just a real change in our ability to generate automated imagery. And the systems got pretty sophisticated pretty quickly and moved towards essentially kind of photorealistic images, as you're probably familiar if you've played with these systems. And so here's an image that tries to show the progression of the improvement of the model over time. So this is Midjourney from version 1 to version 5. Midjourney's up to now, I think, to version 6, maybe 6.5 at this point. And so it just continues to improve, and we can see how the images get more and more sophisticated, more photorealistic, more detailed. One of the big developments over just the last year is the move to text to video models. So OpenAI announced Sora in February of last year, and the actual model was just released in the UK last week. And so we can see the kinds of moving image production that it's capable of, which was pretty astonishing at the time, and continues to be. You can see just a kind of incredible kind of detail, consistency of movement, and so on. And this, according to OpenAI, was produced just with a single prompt using the model alone, no additional processing. We can see another example, and we can see it really seems to obey the laws of physics. The car stays on the road. The dust cloud moves up from the tires. It's pretty incredible stuff. And we won't go into great detail about the kind of technical way that this is possible, but OpenAI has really developed some through models like transformer models and diffusion models, has been able to train a system that is, it's not just following pixels, it's actually sort of developing what we might call a kind of a concept of what they call space-time latent patches. So this means that the model is able to kind of understand the way that objects and movement go together. So something like a butterfly moving across the screen, it's able to translate that into a kind of latent space where it has an understanding of how that object or that entity behaves in movement in relation to its environment. So it's quite a sophisticated way of understanding moving images and being able to replicate them. And just to sort of demonstrate how far we've come, I mean, this is sort of where video generation was, even, as long ago as a year ago, which was really based on just trying to match pixels across the movement across the screen, and had huge problems in terms of consistency and so on. So we've really moved a long way in a short period of time. And OpenAI has been making some very bold claims about the significance of this. They're saying that this is not only a model that's going to revolutionize moving image media production, but they're actually claiming that it could be the route towards what they're calling world simulators. So actually a kind of simulated model of physical processes in the world, and being able to produce really kind of powerful simulators through this kind of technology. Um, So, what are the uh, challenges and opportunities of this kind of fast-moving environment? Um, well, one of the particular kind of challenges or dilemmas around this is, of course, around legal issues of intellectual property and creative rights. So this is a kind of famous image that was one of the images that drew. You can see this is an image produced by Stable Diffusion, text to image generator and Getty Images, which is one of the largest repositories of stock imagery and photographic images, saw this image, and of course they recognized their water stamp or their logo, which is a bit distorted, but is nevertheless pretty clearly there. And they used it as one example of saying, look, you're obviously training these models on all of these copyrighted photographs from our archive. And they've launched a legal suit, which is actually being tried in the UK High Court at the moment. And so there's a lot of these kind of dilemmas and discussions. Artists feel, very vulnerable because a lot of their artwork, which they've of course been encouraged to put online over the last few years, or many years, to promote their work, is all being kind of gobbled up by these web crawlers and used to train increasingly sophisticated AI models. So how does an artist operate within this environment? Another big question, of course, is around things like labor practices and whether or not designers, artists, media creators, whether their jobs are going to be safe in an increasingly automated environment. Will they be replaced by AI? So this is a film that one of our PhD students, Alan Warburton, created. Alan's a CGI artist and animator, and he produced this film called The Wizard of AI, which you can view online. I encourage you to go and have a look at it. And he produced it with AI tools. But it's a film about AI and how AI is transforming the job and the practice of media creation at the moment. So it's a kind of using AI to comment on AI. It's a great film, so go check it out. But there's also the kind of problem of how does a designer, a media creator, an artist stand out in this kind of sea of increasingly um, automated imagery, which is sort of flooding the internet. So how do you develop a kind of signature style? How do you use these tools actually creatively to produce something that is uniquely yours and not just a kind of generic automated image? And designers are using these tools to produce some pretty extraordinary things that really do have a kind of unique signature style. So this is a designer called Nice Antis from Singapore who has created the Antiverse, which is a kind of alternative universe in which the archetype of the Asian auntie, the elderly auntie, kind of rules the world. And so through her AI generation and other design practices, she creates this world inhabited by the aunties. Rupa Ronisto is an AI artist who really kind of works on images from kind of traditional American Americana, sort of strange but also kind of nostalgic images that make we feel like we recognize them in some ways, but then obviously some things are a little off. So this is from his series Life in West America, and he's really developed a style which is recognizable. We know when we see one of his images. David Sauder is another kind of interesting designer who's been using AI in a number of ways. For example, for things like fashion design, for prototyping fashion design concepts. So he has a whole series of these anatomy sweaters, which are, not actually produced, or at least not at the moment, but certainly could be. And there's a real kind of interesting kind of design integrity to the project, even though it's using automated tools. So how should we be moving forward? How should we teach? How should we design? How should we work in the current environment? I think there's a few people who are kind of pointing the way in some ways. So Holly Herndon and Matt Dryhurst are a really interesting creative duo. Musicians, programmers, artists. They've actually just wrapped an exhibition at the Serpentine Gallery where they created their own AI neural network trained on choirs, community choirs across the UK. So this was a neural network which the choirs themselves have ownership over. So they get to kind of dictate, and it's a kind of exercise in data governance. So they get to sort of dictate and control what happens with this neural network, which they can then use collectively. And as well as artwork, Herndon and Dryhurst are involved in an interesting organization called Spawning AI, which has really been trying to develop tools and approaches to working with AI in a responsible way. So how do you work with AI in an ethical, responsible way that doesn't exploit artists' work, that creates new forms of ownership and involvement. So some of the tools that they've produced, for example, this site called Have I Been Trained, where artists can search the Leon 5 billion data set to see if their artworks are part of that data set, if they've been used to train that model, well, used to train the models that rely on that data set, and even petition to remove their images if they don't want to be participating in those training models. They've also been producing something called the PD 12 million, or the public domain 12 million, which is a data set from images of artists who are voluntarily providing their images to this particular data set, and therefore have some ownership over it. So this is not an exploitation of artists, but a kind of exercise in collective use of images that artists are interested and willing to share. One other area, and this is the final one I think I'll mention because we're running out of time, is the importance of working now with bespoke data sets, or fine-tuned data sets. So one way in which we can work with AI in a way that is more creative and we have a little bit more control over is not to just use an off-the-shelf foundation model like DALL-E or Midjourney, but to actually tailor that model, or to create our own data sets, or to refine that model with additional training, so that we're kind of dictating the training of the AI models. So one of the kind of pioneers around this is an artist named Anna Ridler. This is her project Mosaic Virus, where she created an AI model that would produce these kind of mutating tulips. But in order to create the model, she actually took 10,000 photographs of tulips during a residency in Holland. So it's a AI model, but it's completely bespoke, and the hand of the artist is certainly there at the level of the training. And then the final project I'll mention is just one that we've worked on here at Birkbeck. This was a while ago. We worked with the V&A Museum on something called the design generator, which was a bespoke training model trained on the V&A's collection data, so that we were able to produce a text-to-image generator which had kind of particular connection to that collection, and that we were able to use as a pedagogical tool to help people learn about the collection, learn about the categorization of the collection, and the kinds of keywords and so on that were used within the museum. So just to really kind of conclude, if you're interested in these topics, if you're interested in studying about AI, if you're interested in studying it from the point of view of the policies and ethics involved, or whether you're a media creator that's kind of struggling with, how to work within the current environment, we have some really interesting programs on AI at Birkbeck. An existing one already is the MA AI Ethics and Society, which really takes on some of these bigger societal and ethical and legal issues. We're launching an MA in AI and creative media, which will be very much kind of contending with some of the topics that I've mentioned in this talk, which will launch not this coming year, but the year after. We already deal with these topics very directly in our existing MAs in digital media, like the MA Digital Media Culture and the MA Digital Media Design. If you're more on the kind of programming side of things, we have an MSc in Data Science and AI, if you're interested in really kind of working with these models on a kind of technical level. And if you're interested in it at more of a kind of business and marketing level, we have in our business school an MSc in Applied AI. So lots of different opportunities. We also have it's a discussion that's going on all over the college. We have our Birkbeck Institute for Data Analytics has been running a really good series on critical voices on AI, involving people from outside of Birkbeck, but also Birkbeck researchers. It will be an ongoing series, so keep an eye out for that. So there's lots of events and talks and discussions going on in the college as well. But I will end there because my time is up, and I want to make sure we have some time for questions and comments if you have them.